Hey, shalom. Shalom, RasTafari. Watching, yes, watching a video here.
We all try to collect ourselves. We want you to steady.
This is, watching Aban. The presenter is named Aban, A-B-A-N, Videoman. He has a couple of very good videos. One of them is We're Not Africans. And we began to address this particular issue before. This heresy, this COINTELPRO heresy that has crept in unawares amongst many of the modern day so-called Black Hebrew and Hebrew Israelites. The scripture says that, of course, many of you know this, some might not, but not all who are of Israel are Israel. And even though the number of Israel, the children of Israel will be like the sand of the sea. It says only a remnant shall be saved. A remnant shall be called. Only a remnant. So it speaks of this remnant. And in the scripture, it speaks of the remnant from Cush, or what we call Ethiopia. And this is speaking to the root and the truth of the royal order of the Ethiopian Hebrews. But a heresy has crept in. We call this COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program. And some, I don't know whether some are unconscious agents, or whether some are conscious agents. I really don't think that there was ones who are really conscious agents, but this is like the residual of 400 plus years. This is like the wilderness, kind of like the wilderness experience. But the so-called those Israelites who say such, that heresy, that we are not African, heresy really has to be exposed, because it betrays any knowledge of geography and a true interpretation of the Bible. And we've pointed this out in other vids, that the land that was given to Abraham was from the river of the Euphrates to the river of Egypt. And when you see that river of Egypt, it goes all down the eastern portion of Africa, where we find even to this day the proof that the Hebrews and Israelites now, the remnants still there in that region of the world, as well as then, were and are what we call today, quote, black peoples. And this is the terminology that we use today. We can get into the finer points, but as Aban, the Videoman, points out in his We Are Not African video. There's another one he did on, I think, on Polite. I think it's the Kemet on Trial, but it's spelled like trail. Kemet on Trail, Kemet on Trial. Very good video. And perhaps we can load that up if it's not for tonight's broadcast, after the Shabbat Cipher, for Testify Tuesday. So I just point that out. There's another video, Brother Polite, Kemet on Trail, it says, but that's the Kemet on Trial, but you can spell it trail, so you find that video on the YouTubes easily. So I want to hail up Aban, the Videoman. Checked out a couple of his vids, and it's an African, African brethren, who, actually, in spite of all the, the hate that some lost sheep of the house of Israel spew out there, he gives a very good perspective, and I hope that some other brothers and also the sisters check it out for themselves, and especially on this particular heresy, the We Are Not African heresy. Like I said, we published a couple of vids. I think we use this very kind of collage here that you see. We used this before in another video, a series, but we only posted, I think, a couple of those videos. And I got to see some of those backed up in the archives, of the unpublished ones. So hopefully we'll publish the rest of the vids where we go into a little more of the detail, biblically and scripturally, that shows that this false teaching that has crept in. You know what I mean? As the brother says, he says that, if they think of Africa, we don't know whether they think of Africa as a country or, so if you're not African, right? And if we're not African, then are we Asian? Are we European? Are we so-called American in the sense of native? Now, some would say, some of the Indian tribes and that whole connection right there. But I'm talking about y'all that have the African, Negro, African black features. Remember, they used to call Negro land all of West Africa. And of course, we were in Africa. We fled into Africa. But that way of teaching really shows the ingratitude when you look at it scripturally, even with the whole Egyptian kind of thing, where Yah says, to remember the stranger. He gives various sundry laws on remembering the strangers, for you were strangers in the land of Ham, in the land of Mitzrayim, that's Egypt, as well as not to abhor the Egyptian. Abhor means to hate the Egyptian, because you was a stranger in his land, as well as about Edom. And Esau, well, really more like the Edomites, because he's your brother. He's our brother. But see, we're representing the royal order of the Ethiopian Hebrews. We haven't dropped that key prophetic Amos 9 and 7 link that y'all like to kind of run around. And the brother pointed out some very good things in the We Are Not African video. That's Aban, A-B-A-N, I think, Videoman or the Videoman, Aban, actually it's Aban Videoman. So, as we say, show that brother some love right there. Check out his vid. He posted up a vid about 7 days ago. There's this other video right here we have on the Roku in front of us. Brother Polite Kemet he spells it like I said, trail, T-R-A-I-L, not T-R-I-A-L. But, if you want to find that video, just write it as, trail instead of trial, and you'll find that vid. And it's about almost a half an hour, 29 minutes and some over seconds and everything like that. But I think it's a very good audio. The video is good, but the audio, I'm kind of pointing this towards the radio ministry, to get that audio up there, because it makes really some very important points he brings out right there, which also kind of inspires us to hopefully maybe do other videos where we kind of focus on that. But what we wanted to focus on here is this heresy. I don't know if the word heresy, it's like a hearsay. You hear somebody say, okay, we're not African because, show the worst pictures of Africa. Some of them are archival footages. Some of those same people today, you see them, they're probably walking up and down in Atlanta or New York or, in LA, or their descendants, probably you even associate and fellowship yourself with them, or if not fellowship yourself with them, you probably know them. My point is that that's a COINTELPRO. And basically, if you think it out fully, and the brother even makes this point. It's like, in spite of all the things said about Africa and what the Africans have done, so forth and so on, many of the Africans are checking out what's going on, and some of them are positively moved by the truth. But then, I don't know where you get it from. I guess it's COINTELPRO. It's that virus that is still in you, even since the old days, because remember, who was it that persecuted the prophets? Like he said in his vid, he talked about the Ethiopian eunuch and everything, and he sent that question in. I think he was looking at the what's that thing? ISIU. So all these kind of crazy, alphabetical kind of stuff right there. But the guys in purple, Satnael, Nathanael, or whatever his name, whatever he called himself, and others who are basically, you can trace them all to splinter groups that broke off from the real, Black Hebrew or Israelite movement, Black Israel movement that was known as the Ethiopian Hebrew or the African Israelite movement. But you see, that was more strategic if you think about it. Because if we say, okay, we are continentally speaking, not Europeans, not so-called Asians, right? And not really indigenous to this region. Otherwise, how were we brought over here on ships? That doesn't really make kind of a lot of sense, but we're not indigenous to this particular region. And therefore we were brought from Africa, but our homeland is, Israel. And y'all keep pointing to the land grant. You're just looking at the land grant, what the Jews have today. You're not looking at Genesis chapter 15. Because if you look at Genesis chapter 15, where that promise and grace in the New Testament, Paul brings that out as well, says from the river of the Euphrates, right? From the river of the Euphrates to the river of Egypt, the Nahar in the Hebrew, or what's called the Nile, to the Nile River. And that river goes all up and down the eastern portion of Africa. So he says everything between those two rivers. And how ironic do we find, those remnants of Kush, of Ethiopia, and the Lemba people as well, all along that region. Now, historically speaking, after 70 AD, and even before that time, but especially after 70 AD, where most of the Israelites will be agreed on that after the Romans destroyed the temple, which was actually Herod's temple, but anyway, those Israelites trusted in the Edomite at that time. This is another point he made too. He said that, when you really start to look at it, because I've noticed this and some of y'all noticed this, I'm sure, just may not want to bring it out, but it needs to be brought out, that a lot of them have that spirit of Esau. And see, this is what's so very interesting when you think about it. Have even an albino, in a sense, from a black mother, black father, African mother, African father, even the albino child is still technically black. Okay. Black in the sense of, if we're saying linked to the real gene, this is just a difference in manifestation, like, with Esau and Jacob and everything. But it's really the spirit of Esau that many of these so-called Black Hebrew Israelites have. And the damage really is, and see, here's where, if it wasn't so serious, we probably wouldn't even speak on this and even speak on this some more and get our ideas even more clearer. And even the scriptures to even back it up even more. It's that those who are coming to this knowledge of being Hebrews, and even many of the Africans are saying, Aban, Videoman, he cites it, and as well as others, that this is something that is good about this. In fact, in the whole Kemet versus Hebrew debate, more of the so-called Africans are on the side, even if they're into some of the what the European religions that have been brought in, more of them are learning real good things from a lot of the positive teachings. I'm talking about the true teachings from the Bible. But then when some ones go off, and a lot of it is your leaders, some leaders we see out there that really be edging on one say, we ain't Africans, we hate the Africans, so forth and so on. But then you see, one's not thinking about going anywhere with that sort of mentality. If you think about it, you're not really thinking about going anywhere. So even with that knowledge, or even with that zeal, and with some knowledge, because you remember, you have to grow. Even the Bible talk about this. A lot of y'all are still on the titty milk, Old Testament, New Testament, suck a verse here, suck a verse there, but you're already going forward like, you might not call yourself rabbis or whatnot like that, but you're already going forward like your masters. And then when you're putting out your masters, you are failing miserably, like, sophomoric. These are sophomoric issues that you're stumbling over. Africa includes that so-called Middle East, period. Africa includes the Middle East. Oh, okay. Who are you going to listen to? Are you going to listen to Esau? You're following Esau. At what point do you come off of Esau's titty? You know what I mean? So this whole heresy about, we are not Africans and everything like that, it has to be exposed for what it really is. It's COINTELPRO. You understand? There's many nations, there's many tribes, there's many peoples, and there's many Hebrews, Ebos, Ibos, so forth and so on. Lemba, Beta Israel, in Africa to this very day. How do you reconcile that? And besides, it's not just over here in the Western Hemisphere. I see the chart that y'all put up, but you're not looking at it, to the four winds, as Yahweh said, as Yah said, because then you're going to argue about the name and everything like that. And most of you barely speak English. Let's be straight up. It's about discipline, and the discipline of the mind is a basic ingredient in genuine morality and therefore spiritual strength. In order to follow this aim, one must be guided by true religion. And that means truth comes before this whole, I'm Israelite and we wear purple or some other kind of stuff. And these are the costumes, see us on the street and everything, spectacle, and probably put out some good words, no doubt. I've listened. I've also learned as well. But this point right here concerning African and not being African is really a mute issue. It's a side issue. You're going beyond. You're like the other priest back in the wilderness. You remember it was Moses. I think it was Korah and the sons of Korah and the Korah rebellion. You remember that? And where did that lead the people? All that in the wilderness. They could have just, once they recognized, promised land, Yah has given us that land. Bring it together. Let's go. No. They just went around the same old mountain for the past 40 years. You know what I mean? And now what's worse than 40 years ago, many of the Hebrews and the Israelites, and even 70 years, if we take it all the way to the real, in the 30s and the Black John the Baptist, Marcus Garvey, we'll begin to recognize that they already made that link. That link is already established. Doesn't mean that we're of this tribe with the plate in the lip, or the bone in the nose. Who said that they were Hebrews? And who says that they qualify to represent all Africans? It's like some of the Africans that they show you, some of the best. You show Muhammad Ali, under false doctrine, wasn't he? Or he gave up the true doctrine. Which way is it? Was he under false doctrine, gave it up, became the true thing, and lost his his sensibility, so to speak? Michael Jackson. What about Michael Jackson? They show over here some celebrities and stars. That's what it's like to be an Israelite. Is that what it is? And then they'll show you, okay, look at the bone in the nose and a plate in the lip and okay, Nelson Mandela, so forth and so on. How come they didn't put the Lemba people over there? Right? And even the brother said, Aban, he said, so the whole continent was overpopulated by one son? Because you're looking at these Edomite Esau's, you've taken too much from Esau. You know what I mean? You should have taken back the scriptures, and find, a Hebrew, that hasn't come down in this, some Hebrew, from Africa. Oh, there we go. Africa. You see, so you don't see how you're, how you are, cutting yourself off, really. Just like the Israelites cut themselves off because they wasn't, willing to accept, what the Almighty had already revealed. It's already been revealed. This is no new. People think it's, this is something new, that so-called Negroes, are the Hebrews or the Israelites, the Ethiopian Hebrews of the Bible. Well, this is nothing new. You know what I mean? What is new is this level of counterintelligence, you know what I mean, of Israelitish, coonery. You understand? Cooning. Oh, we ain't no Africans. You know, well, didn't you know that those lands are joined? It's just recently that they drilled the Suez Canal, but those lands are joined. In fact, more of the ones over in that region that are laying down the initial part of the reclamation are so-called Africans, and many of these Africans are Hebrews. They are Hebrews. They'll tell you they're Hebrews, they're Israelites, they can trace their roots. You know what I mean? And they're Africans in that general sense. Otherwise, what are they going to say? They're Europeans? You know, what you call yourself, African American? You know, oh, you don't call yourself African, you don't call yourself American, you're so good of an Israelite. Okay, let me see your ID. Let me see your paperwork. Oh, you tell me that on the street when you dress up and play costume, but then, you know, you go about your, so you have like two faces, right? You're like kind of double-minded, you know, in your pocket, you know, you're carrying your ID that says George Jefferson, but out on the road, you call yourself some other name. I'm not going to even, you know, use any name that I know, because not to even point out any of those brethren. It's just to make a point right here. So that whole "we are not African" heresy, those who continue to hold to that heresy of such rash talk, they're already being punished, but the punishment will increase. The punishment will increase because they are deceiving, right? They're deceiving the sheep, you know, the newcomers, ones who really are beginning to recognize, oh yeah, you know, Yeshua, Jesus Christ is black. The Israelites were black. You understand? And we are the Israelites, and the curse of disobedience. And let me begin to, you know, make those moves I can do, you know, in Yeshua, having faith in Yeshua.